Hey guys, benpaines here, and today we're back once again for another video, and this time we've taken the trip up to Teamsport Leicester to compete in the Tin Tops event which has taken place here. Now this is one that we haven't done before. We did have the format for this one. We're going to lay it out for you guys as we are going around on a little bit of a warm-up. We had a 5-minute qualifying session followed by 2 heats. Now the first heat was obviously consisting of our result from the qualifying, and our second heat was a reverse grid from the results in the first race. So we're going to jump in to our fastest lap here and see how we do. Now before we manage to finish our first lap, if you are new to the channel, please can you hit the subscribe button down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it as well, as it really does help me out. Now jumping into our qualifying session, we did manage to have quite a bit of free track here. You can see we have a little bit of a gap to the guys up ahead of us, and I was just hoping to sort of keep the momentum throughout each of the corners here. Obviously we came up here for regional finals last year in 2023, and we all saw how that unfolded, so I wanted to try and get a little bit of redemption on this evening and see what we were able to do. Now we came across the line on our qualifying lap with a 38.503, which rendered us in 7th position, which I was pretty happy with. So we did have VERONA there giving us a little bit of foreshadowing before he then jumped the start, and you can see he was starting just ahead of us in 5th position. So I was determined to try and catch up to him as quickly as we could, and maybe even try and make an overtake on him later into the session. So we'll see if we were able to do that in the first heat. And we got off to a pretty decent start here, funneling our way down the inside, but unfortunately we weren't able to hold the position. So this did render us back in our starting position, which was P7. Still really happy with this, as we didn't sort of go backwards off the start, and obviously from not being a local to the track, there were obviously other people on track who come here a lot more, and they're going to understand how to get the best out of the starts of the races. So you can see here we've lost a little bit of time to the drivers up ahead, but we also weren't losing too much time to the drivers behind us. So here we were, sat in 7th place, come across the line on our first lap with a 41.786, which is obviously always going to be quite slow, as it is a little bit scrappy. And now my goal here in this one was to try and catch up the guys who are up ahead. We did have Harley Smith, who we came up here on the evening with. We also came up here with Arthur Langley and Aaron Mitchell-Begley. They were qualified a little bit further behind, but it was nice to come up with a big group of us to just have a little bit of fun at a track that is not our local one. Obviously we did take a nice 3.5-hour drive essentially with the traffic that sort of presenting itself. Now we do see up ahead here the drivers get a little bit scrappy with one another. We got Kai really trying to defend for his life. I try and slot down the inside there, but unfortunately my momentum carried me into the back of the driver in cart number 10, and I was hoping to then maybe try and funnel around the outside, but unfortunately the driver in cart number 3 just sort of gets pushed into the barriers there, and that loses them the position. Now we do jump forward in this one, as we just sort of ended up in the train for a few laps, and then I decided enough was enough. We sent a big move down the inside into the first corner, which is one of the most important sort of overtaking zones on the track, especially if you've got a little bit of overspeed. I was really struggling all evening, if I'm brutally honest, to make that move stick, as a lot of the other drivers around me are quite lighter, so they're able to get a better top speed. However, once again we move forward in this one and make the same crucial overtake on the driver in 6th position. So we've now moved ourselves up into 5th place, and this is obviously due to the Constantino effect, which bunches all the drivers together as they go into the first corner. I'm signaling to the driver behind, look, let's work together here. I felt like I had some pretty good pace in this first heat, and I was hoping that with Kai defending we'd be able to catch the driver in cart number 1 napping. Now we come up the ramp, not going all the way out to the left hand side there, as it just opens up the track too much. You don't really need to use all that track, as you're minimizing the track distance by staying tighter to the middle of the track, and again through the double hairpin, trying to take a nice double apex nice and tight. And here we see the driver in cart number 1 sort of trying to look for a move on Kai, doesn't quite make it work there. He's really struggling to find a way past. Kai's defending quite well, holds it to the middle of the track once again, as his kart was just looked a little bit sluggish, if I'm honest here, and he also looked like he was driving quite well. So it was obviously one of those things, and this does open the gap up for us. We send a big move down the inside into the bank corner, which allows us to move up into 4th place now. So we've now made 3 positions in this heat so far, which I was really happy with, obviously starting in 4th place. And you can see through the top section how much time we're able to gain on Kai, as his kart just looked to have a little lack of grip. You can see here I'm trying to tell him if he's turning around that I am coming, and we are going to go together and try and work together to push away from the drivers behind. However, Kai was continuing to defend here. Luckily for us on this lap, he's sort of sticking to the outside here, trying to push away from us, but we are closing right up behind him. I was thinking at this point maybe we could go for a little cheeky move down the inside. I think Kai sort of thought the same thing, preempting the attack, and here he looks over our shoulder, doesn't want to work with us, gives us the L symbol, and I was having absolutely none of this, so we send a huge move down the inside on the sort of upstairs section of the track, give him a little L symbol back, and we move ourselves up into third position, which I was really happy with. Obviously being able to make some successful moves at this track without receiving a penalty, which is what we did in the regional final, so it's all good practice for later in the year when we take part in BIKC. Obviously I doubt we'll be coming to this track for regionals again this year, but it is a big confidence boost. So you can see here we've now moved ourselves up into third place, looking over our shoulder, and what I didn't actually realise is this was in fact the last lap of the first heat, so I sort of timed that absolutely perfectly here. You can see me checking over my shoulders to see if Kai's going to look for another move on his way back, but luckily we're able to hold the inside of the corner quite well, and this allows us to hold the position as well. Again, taking a nice tight sort of cornering section through the last couple of corners, and we come across the line with a 37.918, which I was really happy with, as we moved up quite a few positions in this one, and you can see I was really happy with this result. But with this in mind, we're going to jump into the second heat here, and we were starting quite far back. Now, I'm not going to leave any lap times or positions up on the screen for this sort of section of the race, and you'll see why in a little second. So we get underway here in behind Kai VERONA. Obviously we're right at the back. There's an absolute car park unfolding ahead of us, and using our tactical brain, I just decided, look, if we can get to the inside of each of the corners as quickly as we can funnel through. So you can see already we've gained 2 positions off the start of this race, and now we're looking to gain a third. We're in behind the driver in car number 3 here, trying to sort of push him through, but unfortunately we just sort of get hung out to dry here on the outside, so we decided to slot back inside. There's a little bit of a gap to the drivers behind us, and I was really happy to move from essentially the back 3 places up 2 positions. So we've made our way up now. At this point I believe that we were up into 12th place, so I was really happy with this, and now it was just a case of, can we get our head down and try and make a few more by the end of the race. Obviously it's a long race, this is a longer format in this second heat, and we just wanted to see what we could do. So coming into the second hairpin on the lap, unfortunately this is where everything sort of just descends into chaos as the driver up ahead gets put into the wall. This becomes a yellow flag where everyone has to slow down, and then of course as the driver was stuck in the wall, this became a red flag. So on the restart of this one, after seeing my teammates' very exuberant expressions at the red flag, we get underway and we get caught napping completely. We've got a driver coming from behind here who makes a move on us, and then pretty much has the nitrous enabled for the next straight, as well as they're able to make about 3 positions off the restart. I also wasn't hanging around here, managed to move our way back up into 11th place, try and look for a way to get down the inside of the driver who had jumped us off the start. However, it wasn't really coming, and again it's just all sorts of chaos unfolding. We come across the line to start the next lap, and luckily here the driver just leaves the door open, allowing us to move up into 10th place, which I was really happy with, as again we've managed to gain 2 positions off this restart. So we've moved essentially from 14th position in this one already up into 10th place. So we're going to see what we can do throughout the rest of this heat, and hopefully we'll be able to make a few more moves. We try and go for a late lunge down the inside here, however unfortunately we just sort of get hung out to dry. We try and sort of attach ourselves to the driver on the right hand side here, and then try and hold it around the outside, but unfortunately we sort of get washed out to dry. But luckily we're not able to lose our positions, we're able to hold the inside then for the last couple of corners, moving us back up into 10th place. So unfortunately we didn't quite make the move stick, and if we did, it probably would have saved us a whole lot of hassle in this race. We moved forward a couple of laps as we were stuck behind this driver for about 5 to 8 laps. I was getting quite frustrated, so we took the executive decision to take a penalty, send a huge move down the insides, almost push the driver out of the way, which isn't very respectful racing, not very nice, but in the back of my mind I knew that I'd received a 5-second penalty for this contact, and I knew in the back of my mind once again I'd be able to gain 5 seconds throughout the rest of this race, which is exactly what we've been able to do here from the driver behind that we've made the move on. We had been getting quicker and quicker throughout the session, Our fastest lap was actually our last lap at 37.914, but despite this, Harley, who obviously started a position behind us, has now been able to catch up with us and make the move stick. So in the back of my mind at this point, once again, I knew that if I could work with Harley, as he actually came second in middleweights last year here at the track, then we would be able to sort of drag ourselves along and maybe even go for some more moves later into the race on the other guys who we were slowly catching up with. But with Harley laying down a bit of a racing line, we'd be able to get that position or close that gap even quicker. Now, you have a bit of a scruffy exit to the last corner. However, the lap you are watching now whilst we're in behind Harley is in fact our fastest lap of this heat. I don't think it was the fastest one compared to the first heat, but we're going to leave it in here as my fastest lap of the evening, despite it not being the fastest lap of the evening. But this is what you guys are going to get. So you can see here now we are closing up on the guys up ahead very quickly, and we're also hitting the apexes quite nicely, really modulating how hard we hit that brake pedal, because obviously the more you hit it, the more it's going to bog you down, slow you down, especially into the hairpins. Through that banked corner at the top there, we're just lifting, we're not using the brake pedal, and this allows us to hold our momentum once again, and we do come across the line with a 37.701. Now, we obviously weren't able to improve on this, as you're about to witness. We were once again stuck in the train, but before we get stuck into it, we got stuck into the next position, moving ourselves up into 9th position, which I was really happy with, following Harley through. Now, as I said, we were just stuck in the train for pretty much 20 minutes of this race, or that's what it felt like. It felt like an hour being stuck in this train, still putting in consistent lap times, but we're just not really able to get any moves done. Harley also wasn't able to make any moves other than overtaking the driver ahead and then losing that position once again, trying to go for another move further up the road. So we were just sort of stuck in the same place here. You can see we're not going any quicker than our fastest lap. We're all being held up here in a bit of a pack, and at this point in the race, my kart decided that it wanted to have enough. It just completely died. My foot was pinned to the throttle at this point, and I had no idea what was going on, which is actually the first time a Teamsport kart has broken down on me in the 2.5 years that I had been going, which I did find quite amusing, but also very frustrating, as we then had to pull it into the pits here. You could see doing an absolute amazing job of keeping our foot pinned and the kart's just not really moving, and then doing an incredible impression of standing up whilst getting out of the kart and braking to swap into another one. Now, I was a bit disappointed with this, as I knew that this meant that the race was going to restart and everyone was going to be bunched together again. Now, obviously, as you will remember, at the beginning of the race, we did in fact receive that 5-second penalty. So with everyone being bunched together and this being near the end of the race, I knew that this was going to be cause for trouble. Now, luckily for us, we did catch Harley napping at the beginning of the restart for this one, moving ourselves up from 9th place into 8th. But unfortunately, Harley was having absolutely none of it, tries to batter his way back down the inside, and instead I decided to hold the inside and maintain that position. Now, unfortunately for me, as you're going to see, the lap times are extremely slow. One, because we're having an absolute ding-dong battle with Harley Smith, and we're having a great time, but also at the same time, the kart was really cold. It had been unused for a majority of the night, and therefore I just could not get the sort of times that I wanted to. I wasn't able to keep up with anyone. The kart was understeering a lot, and it was really struggling to get through the corners, much like the previous kart I'd used was. And again, as we come up the ramp, we sort of stick out to the wide areas of the track here to try and maintain our momentum. But you can see it's one of those karts that under low speed really wanted to understeer, and under high speed it really wanted to oversteer. So coming down the last couple of corners, I was having to lift off a lot in order to sort of preserve our grip, but unfortunately it didn't really help, as Harley was able to funnel his way down the inside, and we returned once again to 9th position. So at this point now, I knew pretty quickly, as we do begin to get loaded through the hairpin, you can see I'm a little bit frustrated with that, as we've now lost a couple of seconds to Harley up ahead. And at this point I understood pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be able to catch up with him, as I thought there was only 1 or 2 laps left, and I was not given up, but I had decided that now was time to lock up shop and defend the position that we had, just to try and give myself a bit of defensive practice here in a kart that really was a little bit off the pace. You can see here we're sitting to the middle, to the inside of the track. On the right hand side it actually said last lap, which I didn't actually see on the evening, if I'm honest, but now seeing this video back it was pretty clear, but obviously I was too busy trying to defend. You can see once again we're sat in the middle of the track just to ensure that we don't lose any positions to the drivers behind. I'm getting loaded quite a lot, but there's nothing they can do if I am defending and sitting on that inside, unless they want to receive a penalty themselves. So again, coming around the last couple of corners here, coming up the ramp, staying really tight to the inside, thick backing the car in nice and early to ensure it would end on the inside for the following 2 corners, and again through the last couple of corners once again. We're sitting to the outside, cutting to the inside, and then coming across the line towards the outside as we did develop a little bit of a gap. So unfortunately, we did move from 9th place back down to 15th with our penalty, but this does in fact bring us to the end of the video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. At the time of recording, I still have 3 events yet to do this week, so stick around on the channel and you'll see a lot of footage dropping in the near future. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.